Hey guys, how's it going? It's Cheeks. So I've been pretty radio silent since my last video about Monster Hunter Wilds came out. And to be completely honest, that's just been due to me being really underwhelmed with the game. It's been hard to kind of muster up any sort of motivation to make content about it or speak on it too much, as I'm disappointed in it and I can't be passionate and excited, which is what I think people want. And when I am critical and negative, the Monster Hunter community has, for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me, become the type of community that is super white knight and in defense of $1 million corporation. I don't really know when that happened, but there's just a lot wrong with this game. And initially, when I dropped my review, I actually was attempting to be more positive. And at the time, I was positive because I'd been playing through the campaign. I hadn't really had time to settle in and kind of mull over what we had lost. And yeah, I just hadn't really spent enough time with things. But as it's gone on and as I've played more hours, and I kind of stopped playing, I think it was probably around HR 90. I was like not into it anymore and just had no motivation to play. And I think they've just streamlined the soul of Monster Hunter out of the game. And I see time and time again people talking about, oh, this is for the best, making the game easier and more accessible and less irritating and more just straight to the action is for the best because it draws in a bigger audience, and more fans is always a good thing. It's always a good thing if the series gets bigger and more people enjoy Monster Hunter. It's just always a good thing. And to be frank, I disagree. I don't necessarily think it's always a good thing. And I don't like this kind of dishonest false equivalency that people are giving, where they act like Monster Hunter was some tiny niche game that we may not have got a sequel to the last game if this game didn't pop off. That's simply not true. Given that the last game was World, and that was Capcom's top selling game of all time. Like fiscally, they would have seen growth regardless. They didn't need to add all of the quality of life convenient stuff that they did this go around. It wasn't necessary, and it feels greedy to me, honestly. I don't even know if I'm gonna release this video, and I'm probably not gonna edit it. But just kind of looking back in retrospect at all the changes that they made, it felt like it was very much done to appeal to a broader Western audience specifically. And I mean, frankly, I don't know. It's like borderline offensive that the impression of Western players, and I know it's accurate. There's a reason that developers do it, is that we're all lazy and we can't be bothered to figure things out. And we don't like being like any sort of time intensive task that is not immediately straight to the thing that gives us dopamine. Any sort of barrier that is constructed in front of us, we just crumble and give up. Is like basically the way that Wilds was made. That was kind of how I felt the Capcom team viewed us. Was, oh, if they run into any sort of barrier, they're just going to give up and quit the game, and we're not going to make our money. It felt very motivated by business. And let me get down to actual details of what particularly I am so upset about. So, I mean, my last video, the thing I kind of honed in on and immediately wasn't a fan of was the secret, and specifically the autopilot, which I got a lot of, well, then don't use autopilot, lol. And I guess fair point, but also I shouldn't have to ignore fundamental mechanics of the game to enjoy the game. And also, large portions of the map, and just in general, the map was clearly designed with autopilot in mind. Things were not as clearly visually like denoted as they were in older games, in terms of like, okay, this is a surface that you can scale upon and climb on. Things weren't obvious in the way that they used to be. There was also segments where you had to be autopilot on mount, or you at least had to be on the mount, and if you were to do it in manual mode, it was significantly more frustrating and janky than just switching it to autopilot. So clearly the maps were designed with autopilot in mind. But that aside, it just takes away from the feeling of the world, man. Like, I have no attachment to or memory of a lot of the areas of the map because I just call the chicken Uber and call it a day. And even when I'm taking time to intentionally not use those features, it still just feels off because you can almost feel that it was designed with those in mind. You just got these big open areas, but there's not really feeling like, it doesn't feel as intentional. I don't know how to explain it. Something feels off. I mean, maybe it is just that I'm too accustomed to the mountain. I'm just zooming by. But I think there's something to be said for forcing players to slow down and take things in. Was it annoying at times to have to run all through the maps, pre-mounts, pre-palamute, pre-secret? Yeah, kind of. At times it could be irritating, but the trade-off is that looking back, I remember every nook and cranny of old maps. I had those things locked in, and they have a special place in my heart in terms of like farming routes and special little hideaways that I only found because I was forced to run around, and occasionally I would get lost, and I had to take my time, and I had to stop and gather, and I had to do all these things that are quote unquote inconvenient. And sometimes inconvenience is part of the experience. I think there's two camps that come in heavy because there's a lot of people that don't understand why I'm upset at all. And it's because those people tend to be more on the side of, I'm just here for the combat. I don't care about any of the stuff outside of the combat. I just want to get in and get out, which fair enough. And then I keep hearing, oh, if you want more slow paced, challenging gameplay, go play a different game. But like, I guess my response to that would be that Monster Hunter used to be the game you'd go play when people told you that with other games. Like, there was plenty of other games for people who don't want those things, and you go play Monster Hunter because you do. And now we're getting it taken out of Monster Hunter, I guess. But I just think inconvenience isn't necessarily inherently a bad thing, and I almost dislike calling it inconvenience, but time consuming intentional task that are done in preparation for or surrounding an activity become a ritual. It is not inherently a bad thing that they take time. It is the preparation, and the process is part of the experience. And I liked that experience. I liked feeling that sort of hunting simulation, slow, intentional, like everything around the hunt. That stuff was as important to me as the actual hunt itself. So losing that, I mean, yeah, right off the bat, the lack of tracking and the autopilot definitely rubbed me the wrong way immediately. Like immediately, I was so disappointed because it was very iffy on if we were going to have tracking or not. And they were like, oh, you'll have tracking. You have to track it one time and then you'll have it unlocked, which I didn't like. But then I never had to track because they just kind of ferried me to the monster with all the cutscenes. But yeah, I immediately didn't like those things when I was playing through, but it kind of just took a little bit longer to settle in of like, oh, wow, like farm times, drop rates are through the roof. You like nothing feels rare anymore. The word rare in wild is a joke. That's another thing that pisses me off. And I'm sure the response is gonna be like, fucking no one wants to have to grind like 20 fucking hours for one drop. And sure, maybe that's extreme, but I feel like wilds is the other end of the extreme spectrum where you kill something and can make an entire set half the time. Like, it's just kind of a joke, dude. And part of Monster Hunter is farming. Like, it's a loot driven game, and it's not really exciting to get drops you want when you're going in and getting like 4 fucking gems and a couple plates while you're at it off one hunt. That feels shitty. It might feel good at first, but like delayed gratification is a thing. And eventually, when you're constantly getting showered with things, it no longer really feels exciting or good. And that ends up negatively impacting the longevity of the game. And I think that's kind of what all of my grievances have built up to with this game is it's just been it's killed the longevity of the game for me because it's all given to me so easy. I feel like I'm just getting handed things left and right. I'm getting ferried to the monster. I don't have to search for the monster at all. When I actually kill the monster, I'm getting showered in rare drops, so I never get a dopamine hit when I get something that's been eluding me for a while. And then in terms of the monsters, they're just so obnoxiously easy for the most part, except for like tempered gore and base gore, to be fair. And then tempered Arkfeld sort of are so like everything else is so stupidly easy that they're just not memorable. And like, again, I don't think it's fucking supposed to be Dark Souls level. I don't think that noobs are supposed to be getting curb stomped left and right. But I think they should have a challenge. And I've had multiple of my friends who were trying Monster Hunter for the first time, and I've been campaigning for them to try the series forever, trying it for the first time, being like, I don't know, man, this is a little easy. And they're like in high rank, still kind of like, I don't know, this is a little easy. And these guys aren't Dark Souls players. My entire gaming friend group comes from MMOs. And I've seen that online, like the general consensus across new and returning players is this feels easy. And that is a problem because when there's no challenge to be overcome, there's like, it's not impactful when you win. That is not a good thing. I think a lot of people have kind of been like, okay, we're tired of hearing of the Anjanath example because everyone's giving the Anjanath example. But the fact that everyone is giving the Anjanath example is a perfect fucking example of why difficulty matters. He walled so many people. He has become so memorable that everyone's like, might, just repeating and talking about Anjanath because we all remember getting shit on by him. He's permanently relevant now and lives rent free in every world baby's head because he was a giga wall. And I don't think this game really is going to have that sticking power. Maybe they'll add it in title updates, but right now I don't feel like it's really going to have that sticking power. By the time you're at endgame and you're fighting tempered gore, tempered Arkfeld, it's just like the difficulty curve is like a flat line and then a spike at the end. And even then it's pretty negated. And I would say the only monster in this game that really kind of exudes that aura that, say, Nergigante did when you're at endgame is like tempered gore. And even then, I don't really think he has an attack that is as intimidating as the dive bomb from Nerg. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. That one I'd be willing to like be told that I'm incorrect. Maybe I'm just jaded and like pissed off, but the other thing that has been irritating me about the discourse and why I've just kind of been silent about everything is I see a lot of like, oh, it will get added in title updates. It will get added in title updates. And to be honest, I don't want to hear that. The game should be a complete experience out the box. I don't really think that Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Wilds or Monster Hunter Rise or any of the modern Monster Hunter games that are a little more online focused should be trying to be more live focused or live service focused. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my own fucking gameplay. But I don't think that's a good direction for Monster Hunter. I think that they should be focusing on getting a complete experience out the box that feels good to play, because a lot of people aren't going to return for the title updates anyways. That's only going to be the hardcore people, but they need to have a fully fleshed out and fulfilling experience. The difficulty and all of the good stuff shouldn't be coming in title updates. Honestly, less so on the difficulty and more so on the fact that we're getting like the gathering hub and hopefully the cooking cats and that sort of shit with this title update one, and like Mitsuzune, which who cares about her? Honestly, I'm kind of tired of her, but why was that not in at base? I've heard some theories about, oh, they needed to get something out in the fiscal year. Maybe, sure, but I don't think that excuses it. And I really don't like this precedent. And I don't like that people are so ready and willing to defend it. And I also really just don't like that a lot of very established content creators are like, guys, it's fine with Monster Hunter. You're signing up for, you buy the $70 game and then they add everything in later. I don't like that dialogue at all. I think Monster Hunter for me has always been, you spend money on the game, you get a very good complete experience, and then they give you a bunch of bonus extra shit at the end. And that made them stand out. I used to point at Monster Hunter and be like, this is what other live service games should try and emulate. Not Monster Hunter, let's fucking emulate all the other live service games and ship something that feels incomplete and then complete it later. That feels bad, man. What was the other thing I wanted to address? Oh yeah. This game feels, again, difficult. Okay, difficulty, mechanic, complexity, and all the other stuff getting gutted. Take that out of the equation. In terms of westernization, the tone and vibe of this game, and also like the over-the-top cinematic cutscenes and story focus, feels hardcore westernized to me. Maybe westernized isn't the correct term, but like the serious, gritty bullshit and like complete removal of any sort of like quirky, goofy, whimsical Monster Hunter charm, that is another thing that has kind of fucked up the longevity for me on this game. The more I played it, the more I miss the usual Monster Hunter shit. Like it's to a point where I was playing Monster Hunter Stories too after this, because it's like I was craving the cats doing weird cat shit and all of the funky little architecture that you normally see around the bases with the weird little symbols painted on stuff. And this one just felt like it leaned way too heavily into realism for my personal taste. I think some people might have liked that, and I'm not sure why they made that decision. Maybe it was because they just assumed Westerners don't like the funky, quirky, goofy shit. I don't know. But I like, the more time went by, the more I kind of started fixating on that, and the more I was missing it. And by the end of it, I ended up going back and playing other Monster Hunter games, because this one, it just feels like a more like a Western action RPG that's wearing Monster Hunter's skin. That's really melodramatic, but I'm a fucking melodramatic person. That's how this game felt to me. So the end result has just been, overall, I would say it's a good game, but I do not like it as a Monster Hunter game. Like, I genuinely don't like the game. I think the standout feature is definitely the combat, and then like weapon armor design. But aside from that, I honestly dislike the majority of the aspects of this game. The graphics are pretty, but I would happily have traded out the super high fidelity graphics for World's level of graphics and much more mechanical complexity. And I don't mean mechanical in terms of monster fights. I mean mechanical in terms of systems and stuff like that. Like the new farm system and the new, like, just all the things that got removed. I shouldn't have to list it out. I mean, a lot of you guys are Monster Hunter fans, so you know. But the removal of the farm, the removal of the Tail Raider Safari, the removal of tracking, the Uber being a thing, the lack of a need to go gather anything because you constantly get materials thrown at you. I'm sure there's other shit I'm missing, but this is just off the cuff. I was actually going to try and make a video about something else tonight, because I just wasn't having it in me for Monster Hunter shit, but I'm clearly still bitter about it. So that's all for me, guys. I think I'm going to either try WoW. Again, their housing update has me excited. So probably either going to try WoW, or maybe I'll boot up my old haunt, Elder Scrolls Online. It's up in the air, but do the YouTube stuff. Let me know what content you want to see from me if you're a returning viewer. Sorry I've been ghost for a while. Yeah, I'm just disappointed, honestly. I'm just bummed out. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. That's all. Thanks, guys.